now tuned into DAR Sports Media, and it's another media on the sports media. Thank you so much for all the support on the Christmas movie thing that we did. That did a ton of views, and we were not exactly expecting that. It's our most viewed media one, other than the Incredible versus Cash Money versus No Limit, but that was a once-in-a-lifetime event for all of us. So thank you for the support. This week, since it's getting pretty poignant, we're a year out from one of the biggest, not just one of the biggest movies, but one of the biggest turning points in the MCU, the Marvel Cinematic Universe, is what we're talking about this week, or this month, or however often we're going to start doing these media pods. Avengers Doomsday is being teased. By the time you hear this, the X-Men teaser trailer for Doomsday may be up.
Yes,
and we will, as far officially, it's already been making the rounds for a couple of weeks unofficially, but the X-Men one might be out, and the crux of what might be going down in Doomsday, Secret Wars after that, possibly in between. The rumor is unconfirmed because they've been kind of keeping it close to their vest because it's very important. Is that and True, you kind of alluded to this on Twitter earlier on this week. It's time for the X-Men. The X-Men are going to pretty much take over as the primary focus of the MCU going forward. Backbone it, kind of the way the Avengers backboned it coming into do it for the last 20 years. And it's wild that's been 20 years. And I like this because we're going to keep the streak alive. True, we're going to manage to turn this into being a poor kid during the 90s every single episode, one way or the other. That's a huge fucking deal for me. For True, James is in the same age group as us. I think you're a little bit younger than me and True, but still pretty much the X-Men were my thing. They were my original thing. The X-Men and Batman, and that is because of, obviously the two animated series, Batman the animated series, X-Men the animated series, that was on broadcast television back when me and True were kids. Furthermore, I was very much into Marvel and DC because comics are cheap, and so as a poor kid, I could get them. And that's not to say that I didn't like the Avengers as well, because because the X-Men were it in the early and mid 90s. Like, that's what it was when we were kids. So the Avengers were less popular, so their stuff was actually cheaper. So I still had that too. But the comics was like $2, $3, $4, and then you could get a pack of Fleer trading cards. I was very much up on those as well. The Fleer trading cards of the X-Men, Spider-Man, for like $1, $2. Back then, you could always grab one of those from the store and try to guilt your grandma or whoever you was at the store with. So that's the huge turning point that's rumored to be approaching with Avengers Doomsday. But to go forward, I want to go back a little bit and pay homage to the film series that you would probably not expect, and you probably didn't expect to hear on this podcast about the MCU, because it's not technically a part of the MCU. It is now in another film that I'm going to discuss later. But if it wasn't for this movie, there's a good chance there would be no MCU. A little art house project known as Blade that we got to talk about and pay some homage to here on this thing before we move into the MCU. Marvel was in bankruptcy. They were selling off IPs to different studios, which has now, kind of bit us in the ass later. Nowadays, would have never imagined this future. They were selling off IPs. That's why Sony has Spider-Man, and that's why Fox had Blade and the X-Men. Now, X-Men was already starting pre-production when Blade came out, but Blade was such a cultural hit. Made some money. It wasn't like a huge smash commercial hit because it was R-rated, but it was a huge cultural hit, huge impact. And then we moved right into the X-Men movies that were not so much critically acclaimed, but was very, very successful monetarily. This is the kind of stuff that gave Merrill Lynch, I want to say it is. Let me check on that real quick. Yes, Merrill Lynch the confidence to extend $550 million line of credit to independent movie studio, Marvel Studios. The first major independent movie studio was founded after DreamWorks in the mid-90s. Those two movies, Blade and then X-Men, the X-Men franchise, is what gave Merrill Lynch the confidence to give this money to Kevin Feige and Ari Ahmed, Marvel Studios, to then go into making movies about Iron Man, the Avengers, etc., etc. And here we are, $30 billion later, so many more dollars yet to come. Let's talk about Blade, man. It not just the MCU, but almost the superhero movie genre in general saved the day. Because if Blade doesn't come out and it isn't cool as fuck, I don't know if people are rushing out to go see X-Men to make it the commercial success that it was. Blade comes along right after the debacle of Batman Forever, Batman Robin. Studios don't want nothing to do with superhero movies. Fans don't want nothing to do with superhero movies. Here comes Blade. Wesley Snipes is perfect. Steven Dorff is perfect. The look, the feel, the music. To this day, what I always put forward as the greatest character intro scene of all time. Blade in the bloodbath, in the club, tearing motherfuckers up. You would... there's probably other examples, but I don't remember ever the perspective being flipped like that, where you're actually following the villain the way that you would be following the perspective. It's like a horror movie in reverse. Usually a horror movie will start off and you'll be in the third person perspective with maybe not the protagonist, but a protagonist, a victim, a person, and they're going about their night and they're having a fun time and they're making out with their lover, and then the monster shows up and then the monster kills them. It happened, but it was flipped inside out to where you're actually following a vampire, an antagonist, a bad guy and girl to this club. You're with their perspective. It's the same thing. It's Lover's Lane until it's not. And then the monster shows up. But in this case, the monster is a hero, the baddest motherfucker on earth, Blade. Between that and one of my all-time, and I used the line so many times in my career and in my life afterwards, the line when they're in the hospital and the cop shoots at Blade and he looks at her and says, "Motherfucker, are you out of your mind?" Just the fucking best. True, man. Talk to me about Blade.
Well, like you said, Blade is a savior for Marvel, the Marvel Cinematic Universe, and everything kind of in between. But also, it represents like the first lifeline. You know, it's funny because I literally, wrote the article about Black superhero movies, like around the same time I did the Marvel stuff. So there was like Steel and Spawn and those type of movies, and we hadn't really had anything that fit the the guise of a superhero. Even though Blade's less of a superhero to me and more so kind of like just a cool protagonist for the series, but I will say Blade 3 sucks to me. It kind of sucks. I know Triple H is in that one. It kind of sucks. But Ryan Reynolds 2, just not really a good movie. But Blade 1 and 2, very, very. I think Blade 2 is the best of the trilogy, personally. To me.
So I didn't, because we got to have Cam on. We got to do a whole pod just about Blade 2. Now you got to we talk to the back of your head, motherfucker. Yeah,
we're gonna have to do that one day. But I say Marvel. Think about how many movies prior to 1998 that Marvel had in the theaters. You can't really name any. So there was no Spider-Man, there's no Iron Man, there's no Captain America, there's no Thor, there's none of that. That was not even thought of. The X-Men was around.
Dolph Lundgren, baby. But other than that,
I mean, yeah, but is that like a super memorable movie? Like these are not
a super memorable movie, but it didn't do good. No.
Yeah, like memorable and not in the best way. So I think what Blade did was it changed the narrative. It gave Marvel, like you said, I'm still a little. I never knew that it was Merrill Lynch that gave a $550 million line of credit. I have a couple different feelings that I'll save for this episode because because that's I don't think that's ever been heard of before. But anyway, like I said, Blade saved the day. It was one of the first of its kind, I think, in that way. Because like you said, Punisher with Dolphin. I mean, yeah, but there's not a major movie where it felt like Blade felt like a comic book movie. And to me, it felt like that. And so It's the first of its kind, and I'm
It was a
glad we
wild
eventually.
risk too, because it's not like
Very.
I know I'm a Marvel head though. Like I know Blade. Fuck yeah, I know Blade. But like it wasn't like a super popular character, and
And to be honest,
you're doing like vampires, and like you
this
got
needs
Wesley
to.
Snipes for this. Like it's fucking crazy, man.
But this needs to also be discussed about Wesley Snipes at the time. Wesley Snipes is on a decline at that moment. And a lot of people might not know what changed for him. We talking about Nino Brown. We talking about White Man Can't Jump. We talking about Demolition Man. I know you're a fan of Demolition Man,
Yes, sir.
Eric, or whatever. Passenger 57, Money Train, like, and some of his domestic uh, disputes, if we will. Those were going on at the time. It was a lot happening, and he also was saying some interesting things about his own community and the women in his community. So I remember when Blade came out. I know a lot of people liked it, but like people, I knew it was like, oh, they not fucking with that because of what Wesley was going through. So it was a risk in that way, and I think just mainstream America might not have been as privy to some of those details as those of us in certain areas. But you can all look it up. It's all you can all Google it and look it up and shit, and you can find it. So it was a risk, but like I said, I mean, Wesley has a very, very checkered past. I felt it felt important to mention that because Wesley was a big movie star and not a big, like he wasn't like, how like Will Smith became where Will was doing like 400, but he was good for 80 to 100 million at the box office, which back in those days, was pretty good. He had a movie with, was it Sean Connery, Rising Sun? I want to say that was another one. And so there's a number of movies. And so he was not like a proven star to carry a franchise that would save an entire brand. So that is the risky part of it. But Blade worked out. Blade is an iconic character, and I don't think we ever need to speak of the television series that has Sticky Fingers from Onyx in that role. But yeah, so Blade saved the day for sure. It's a shame we have not got the
Marshall Ali,
the one we're supposed to get. So and then they brought Wesley back for Deadpool versus Wolverine, but also
like I said, we're gonna talk about that in a little bit.
Yeah.
James, talk to me about Blade, bro.
I absolutely love Blade. It was one of the first. It was one of those things that was just foundationally so impactful, left such an imprint, and to this day, anytime I'm watching certain movies of any kind, but especially whether it's action, superhero, whether it's comic related or not, it's one of those things that I always have a high watermark, a high bar to use as a comparison, in terms of going back to the feeling that I had when I watched Blade for the first time. So that's the thing. I love all the details you guys just mentioned about the coming of the funding for the studio and the details of what Wesley Snipes was going through and the comparison of Blade 1, 2, and 3. I agree in the sense that 3 is definitely the weakest. Personally, while I absolutely love Blade 2, I personally, again, just because of how important Blade 1 was for me, I hold Blade 1 personally on top out of the three. But it's one of those things where at least we've got two masterpieces. The fact that Blade number one was able to, like you said in the beginning, flip the script in terms of the traditional trope of how horror movies usually start, but then work its way through some of the best action to the point where, again, this is even before The Matrix. We're talking about there was bullet time that was special effects that nobody had really seen before. Not only gun fu, but in terms of the influence from John Woo coming out of Hong Kong, but also you had the martial arts again that was gonna, slow-mo, especially that was that expanded on in Blade 2, that again around influencing stuff around the Matrix and other fighting movies and what have you. So it's just again, like you said, you can have a whole episode about Blade 2, you can have a whole episode about Blade 1 and how influential it was. So the fact that we're talking about it now and how important it was to get this ball rolling is just so great.
So I think we'll kick things off with the highlights, get everybody locked in, and then we'll punch in. We'll get to work. But we'll have some fun first. Let's do our top 5 MCU film. It could be film or TV. Just your top 5 MCU entities. And I think me and True, we've discussed this before, I believe. And I think
hey man, look, I just got finished ranking pretty much every movie.
Yeah.
So like I have a top 5. I mean I have a top 5. I'll obviously let you go first, but I don't have any TV shows in my top 5. I'll put it to you like that.
I got close. I got close on Loki. I really, really like Loki a lot.
I like Loki a lot. It's a great show, but yeah.
It hurts me to say, like, I wanted WandaVision to be in there, but it just falls apart so bad at the end. It was so damn good, and it was like one of those things.
Right? Because I think
it was like virally capturing everybody's attention. Like everybody was trying to guess what the fuck was happening.
I think WandaVision fails though because the last episode or two. The climax of the show does not work to me in the way that I was expecting it, and then you have
the
Agatha stuff. It was like it kind of, and then especially when you consider it leads into Doctor Strange 2, which I have interesting opinions on Doctor Strange 2, which we'll probably get to a little later. But I just don't think. Yeah, I just don't think WandaVision worked. I thought Falcon and the Winter Soldier was a decent show. I just don't feel like. I just don't feel like there's any TV show. Now, I will say, What If, the animated one, was pretty much fire. That it's not on my list, but it definitely.
I sent her to a universe who lost their widow. Man, I fucking popped. Oh, I was cheering the way that fucking show ended. That was good shit.
But I will say, if I did a top 10 of my top 10, What If would probably be in there. I don't know if Loki might crack top 10.
So Loki to me, when they defeat the smoke monster deal, and the old Loki, was yelling about glorious purpose, like that's fucking fire. The intro, and I think part of why this made it into my top 5, a little bit of recency bias, yes, but also because I was just very, very touched by how careful and how lovingly this movie that they knew was going to be ultra fucking popular. They took the time to in a awesome way, like pay homage to people who came before and paved the way and kind of got discarded. And that's why Deadpool and Wolverine is my number 5. I love how they were able to incorporate Blade, Elektra, X-23. Very, very cool to see them step up and do their thing. Loved. And this has been a long time thing for me, kind of harkening back to the conversation we started with. When I was a kid, like Wolverine obviously was my guy, but my other guys, Wolverine, Gambit, Bishop, Cable, Iceman, those were my guys. So to see and I never understood why you would make a franchise out of that IP and not include the coolest motherfucker that's involved with it in Gambit. I would be very interested to find out what the decision-making process on that was, whether it was maybe they just didn't want anybody to take the spotlight off of because they're supposed to be Wolverine-based movies. I don't know. And to see the attempt and fail in the Wolverine Origins to introduce Gambit, to see him teased at the end of one of the X movies, when they're looking through the mutant database, Remy LeBeau's name pops up. It was, big deal for me seeing that, thinking that maybe he'd show up at some point. To read in the Hollywood dirt sheets how close this Channing Tatum Gambit movie came to getting made and then not getting made and then getting made, for him to finally be able to step into those shoes and just go fucking crazy during this movie and do all of Gambit's badass shit, like all of his signature stuff. And on top of that, like there's a lot of people who, the scene with them in the car and Wolverine and Hugh Jackman gets to like really break into his acting ability and everything that Wolverine has been through. Also, the fan service was getting the Henry Cavill Wolverine in there. That was fucking great. So many comic book callbacks. I thought that movie was fucking spectacular. True thoughts on Deadpool Wolverine?
Really good movie. probably one of the only movies I watched in 2024. I mean, you would understand why why that was.
Yeah, that's a big deal. You get U.S. for the movies during that year.
Yeah. And so, it's epitome of fan service, right? It's just epitome of fan service. You got Elektra, Blade, Gambit. You got the different Wolverines. You got the 1,000 Deadpools. It felt like that they had to go through, and Dogpool and everything. It's just, this was all around to me. I just thought it was a really entertaining movie and really fun. And I think it kind of was like the jolt of life that the MCU needed, because it had been a rough couple of years since Spider-Man No Way Home.
Yeah.
So
that was kind of the wrap at the time, and it was like, oh shit, look what happens when you make a movie that people fucking want. It's amazing.
Exactly. Yeah. So I thought, like I said, really good movie, the epitome of fan service. And after trying to make the Eternals a thing, after doing the Moon Knights and the She-Hulks and these different television shows and different movies, and I think, and especially the Ant-Man Quantum Mania, which was like a horrible flop, and it was terrible. It felt like this was their way of like riding the ship. And I think ever since Deadpool and Wolverine, I think Marvel mostly has been back on point.
So what's funny is I have a buddy who's like pretty plugged in with some high up people and in the Hollywood circles, two of them actually. And one of them reached to me. He was like, yo, I heard about this. I know that's what he said. He started. He said, I know this sounds insane, but somebody who knows what they're talking about told me this. He said Blade, Gambit, and Elektra are in this fucking movie, and they're like in a big role. And it was like, what? And then I'm in the theater, and they're all coming out, and then they all look up, and here comes Blade. I just say out loud in theater, holy shit, it's real. Like the rumors were real. I couldn't fucking believe. And then I knew Gambit was coming up after that, and I just couldn't. It was great moment. Number four on my, you'll have a blast, dude. You got to check it out. Number 4, and what I was saying earlier, I was surprised. I didn't realize this when I was looking at True's list he's put out on Medium. The rest of my top 5 is from Phase 3, all of it. My number 4 is Thor Ragnarok. Loved the laughs. This was before the Taika Waititi thing kind of got out of control in the second movie. Loved the vibes. I love every movie where a cool villain kind of gets the redemption arc. And I remember saying out loud, like near the end of the movie, holy shit, Loki's gonna fucking save them. And then Loki like turns badass, like anti-hero at the end. Fucking great. Love Jeff Goldblum. He's fucking hilarious. Love the Hulk and the interactions with what he's been doing there on Sakaar. Everything about it, man. It was real fun. Great soundtrack too.
I enjoyed Thor Ragnarok. I think it was like a needed film in the Thor series because it felt a lot more fun. It felt a lot more, more exciting. And also, like you said, Jeff Goldblum, especially when they go, "It's my birthday" or whatever that little thing that they do, and that stuff. I thought was really fun. I thought it was hilarious. And there's just a number of I think it gives a much needed lighthearted feel, even though it's not lighthearted because Helen and all other stuff, but it's a little more lighthearted than what comes after. I think it's like, such if you watch everything in order, you had Civil War, before that you had a couple of the movies like they was just dark and grim. We're getting to the the Thanos time of things where shit's about to get real. And I think Ragnarok, it's a fun watch. I watched it recently, just for the articles. But
my number 3, you just mentioned it, Civil War. Love the introduction of everybody all interacting together. Love the introduction of Black Panther. Black Panther was one of my favorites as a kid. I was fucking irritated that he took so long for him to show up into the MCU. It's even more irritating now because God bless him. We tragically lost Chadwick Boseman. After just a little bit of involvement in the films, and he was so fucking good and it was so perfect. It is even more upsetting that it took so long to get him into the MCU. Airport scene, of course. Bucky and Cap versus Iron Man, of course. Every real one knows that Iron Man was correct in that situation. Fantastic fight scene. A lot of fun with Zemo. The whole arc of how he was manipulating the Avengers to go against each other. Civil War, man, fantastic movie.
Absolutely. That's on my top 5. I will say I'm glad you said Iron Man was in the right with the Bucky situation, because I don't think he was in the right with the other side of the thing, but that's because you're talking to me. You're talking to me. So
it's funny. It's fun, right? Because Captain America, you would think that Captain America is
on the side of
government guy. He was like, no, fuck that. This is about freedom. Absolutely. Yeah.
And so I think Civil War is it's to me, it was the movie I think that got me like 200% invested into the MCU, because my number one is probably going to be surprising for a lot of people. And I won't say it right now, but it's the other. Well, I'll say it. It's the Winter Soldier film for me personally. I think the Winter Soldier, to me, and you can feel how you want to feel about it.
That's the one. That's the one we were talking about.
I know. The one that you don't see to deal with, right? Yeah.
I mean, it's good. I just don't get it. Like everything.
I'll explain to you what it is for me.
Okay, I know. Wait till we get to yours. Let's go. Civil War. Anything else? Civil War.
But Civil War is probably it's not number 5 on my list, so I'll say that. So it's probably like 3 or 4. I'll get it together and when I go through mine. But just a great movie. The introduction of Spider-Man, the introduction of like Black Panther into the series, and just the fights and the ending fight with Iron Man, like, where Captain America's like, he's my friend, so was I, and they just going there, like everything. It's just the one thing about the MCU, that when they get the writing and the story perfect, top tier. There's like very few things, which is why I hope Doomsday, Secret War, Brand New Day, I hope they can kind of restore the feeling that I had during this time. Like, this was like, we used to wait. We would be waiting for these movies to come out. I remember going to see Civil War opening night. There's no other movies I would do that for. Like, there's literally no, like, maybe like a Rush Hour or like a Bad Boys movie come out. Like, maybe one of those for me. But like, for a Marvel movie, I was literally the first night, me and my homies right in there, the first night it came out. And you just can't get that feeling, man. You just can't. That was the one that, to me, Infinity War and Endgame being as popular as they are is because of the groundwork that Civil War laid, to me.
Fantastic film. Yeah, I think the character, the layers with the characters involved is so great. And like you said, the introductions of the characters alone, with Spider-Man and Black Panther. But the fact that you were able to take a introspective look on the Avengers team as a whole without it actually just being an Avengers movie, without like the fact that it's got a mind set back, like coming off of Winter Soldier, which I agree is. So I go back and forth, one over the other, Winter Soldier over Civil War over Winter Soldier. If anything, they're tied right now. The coming off of Winter Soldier though, and that Cold War mindset and what Captain America went through in that, and then like you said, lent itself to his decision, his taking sides in Civil War. I think the atmosphere that then, like you guys said, sets up Infinity War. I think it's one of those beautiful concoctions that they were able to mix together in just the right way with just the right people at just the right time, that was able to hit the audience, really, like you said, true, get you locked and loaded, whether it's 200% or any level of excitement, coming off of all the movies that had come and going into the movies that are about to come. So it's one of those things where if it's like almost like the linchpin, like if for whatever reason that hadn't worked, it would have drastically affected. So it's one of those things where I think all those things combined leaves us so satisfied, but also craving so much more, and so that really helped connect the link in the best of ways.
I doubt this is on many top 5s, and certainly not this high, but it hits for me in a personal way. Guardians of the Galaxy 2, the entire storyline with the surrogate father and Quill meeting his father, as he goes along. It has all of the charm and action and fun of the Guardians of the Galaxy's movies. You know, Dave Bautista's fucking amazing in these movies. Everybody does a great job in here, but the relationship and the digging into what that experience is like of being abandoned by your father and being abandoned by your parents, and the surrogates that you meet along the way and the connections that you make with them and the impact they have on your life was just still to this day, man. He says that line, he might have been your father, but he damn sure wasn't your daddy. That fucking fucks me all the way up. Still to now, that line, their relationship, and again, I'm a big sucker. I love like redemption stories. I love when bad guys turn a little good, just rediscover that goodness within them. Towards the end of an arc, because come on, Drew, like we grew up in the Stone Cold Steve Austin era. That's what our heroes do. That's what our heroes are. They all start off bad, getting to turn around and finding redemption and still getting to get the full Marauder funeral at the end of the movie was super fucking touching for me as well. I love Guardians of the Galaxy 2, man.
It's funny. I love the entire trilogy. 2 is probably like, I'm kind of partial to 1 just because I didn't expect 1 to be as good as it was. I didn't expect 2 to be as good. I didn't expect any of them to be as good. I was like, oh, this is where it's going to fall off. This is where it's going to fall off. I don't have any Guardians of the Galaxy in my personal top 5. I think I have one in my 5 that most people are kind of iffy about, but what you just kind of said it, kind of how we kind of came up. Like, what my number 5 is because of how I came up and what I came up watching and whatnot. So, but yeah, Guardians of the Galaxy, man. I think that character, was Kurt Russell, right? Yeah, Kurt Russell.
Yep,
was phenomenal. And he's phenomenal in everything he's in. But it's just something about the way he played that character. It was amazing, and I love Guardians of the Galaxy 2. Like I said, I love all 3 of them. So you can flip a coin, and I have no problem with any of those films. They're not in my personal top 5 just because I don't have the connection to the Guardians of the Galaxy in that way. Like, I watch the movies and I think they're awesome, but I don't have that connection to those films like I do my top 5. But if it was a top 10, probably all 3 of the Guardians of the Galaxy would be in my top 10 for sure.
Shout out to while we're here, shout out to the Guardians of the Galaxy Christmas special. That shit's hilarious. Didn't quite, but it's like perfect for what it is. That and the Halloween special with the Thing and the Wolfman. They're both perfect entities of television for what they're supposed to be. James, talk to me about Guardians of the Galaxy 2 or the whole franchise, whichever.
Absolutely. Yeah, I love that. I thought, honestly, I was going to be unique in a sense in terms of also saying that Guardians of the Galaxy Volume 2 is one of my top 5 over so here's the thing. Again, just like with going back to Blade. So Blade 1 was my personal favorite over Blade 2, but I love them both. Volume 2 is my personal favorite over Volume 1 Guardians of the Galaxy, although I love them both. So, but it's one of those things where I think Volume 2, having set up everything in 1, I think Volume 2 brings a layer of discord and internal struggles within the gang that I was just so refreshed to see. And it was the way that everyone has to deal with their own, whether it's inner demons or external factors that are brought towards them in the movie. And again, like you said, the soundtrack is so great too. I mean, in all of them, it's so great. But especially, I mean, I go back just on my own. If I'm going to rewatch it, just any clip on YouTube, I go back to so it's a song by Jay and the Americans, Come a Little Bit Closer. And when is it Yandao
Yondu.
with the arrow?
Yondu, yeah.
Yondu. Yeah. And whenever that scene comes up in my mind, it always makes me feel better when he's going through the ship, just wreaking havoc with the arrow. I think that's music plus visuals is fantastic. Again, throughout Marvel, you've had so many great music cues and visual combinations, but that is definitely one of my favorites of all time. But also, so then going back to, if we're talking about the whole trilogy, all 3, Volume 3, I really appreciate that one as well. I couldn't believe how dark it went. I
Yeah,
was in a
man.
room.
I think it's a
Yeah,
little underrated in that way. I felt like, and I brought this up to people who I was friends with at the time. I said, does nobody like, can't believe they were cool with, I guess, and I guess it's like a character study of how we as humans work. Because I just guess not that many people were that appalled by what happened, because the race of animals, or the race of living beings on that planet in that existence, like looked like animals. So I guess like that didn't really hit for people. Like I thought that was like so fucked up. Like to me, okay, they look like animals, but like they had pictures of their kids on the wall and were
right.
like proud of their accomplishments, and all of those things that make society. And so to me it hit just the same as seeing like a planet of people getting fucking wiped out. That was like fucked up, man. Yeah,
Absolutely.
that was crazy. But it was also I mean, there was a lot of pretty crazy. There was a lot of crazy emotional stuff. Rocket Raccoon coming back and overcoming that fucking motherfucker, and
Hmm.
such a well deserved like feel good ass whooping at the end. Like, yeah, it hit everything that it needed to hit.
Right. Yeah. And that's the thing, relevant more so today than ever before, with so many people unfortunately getting thrown into cages, for any number of reasons these days. So that's the thing. I think it's a fantastic trilogy overall. And I'm so glad that we were able to highlight volume two.
My number one. This is gonna be high on. I imagine it's gonna be high on everybody's list. Infinity War, for so many reasons. Thanos is dropping bars. Captain America rolls the fuck up with his blacked out team. Um, there's so many, to me, there's so many of the most badass moments in the entire MCU, including my number one moment in the entire MCU, all happen like within the same 30-minute fucking span. Thor showing up to save the day, Rocket saying, "Oh, you guys are in trouble now," when Thor's about to show up. Peter Dinklage is fucking great in his appearance. One of the all-time funny lines, like, "Yes, that's what dying means." There's a scene where Black Panther and Captain America are both running to like fight the monsters, and it's like a wide shot, and Captain America is keeping up with Black Panther, like running. And Black Panther has like this mythical, like these powers, and Captain America is just a fucking dude who's souped up by the super soldiers there. I just thought that was incredibly fucking cool. Thor's ultimate failure. And to me, I referenced it a minute ago, to me, my favorite and the most badass moment of the entire MCU is when Thanos is trying to force the blade down, or force the object down onto Captain America, and Cap is fighting him with every fiber of his existence, and Thanos gets this momentary, just a little tiny look of doubt on his Thanos gets a tiny look of doubt on his face, or confusion, like, how is this fucking guy resisting me? And it's just all powerful being. And again, Captain America is just a kid from New York City who got the right stuff, right? And he's making this demigod from outer space confused, doubt himself for even just that split second. It's the fucking coolest thing in the fucking world to me. Love it. Love everything about it. Infinity War, and the gutting ending. Infinity War to me is the shit. Lots of funny stuff too. It's one of the funniest parts when the Guardians of the Galaxy and Doctor Strange meet up with Iron Man and Spider-Man, and they're all fighting each other and figure out they're all on the same side. That's fucking hilarious. So many good things, so many highlights, high watermarks of the entire MCU to me. True, man. Talk to me about Infinity War. I know you love it too.
Infinity War is my number one.
Yeah.
That's my number one. It's gonna be hard to beat that too. I think it's just hard to beat that. It is basically the culmination of 10 years of Marvel films at that point. Starting from, I guess, the Iron Man and the Edward Norton Incredible Hulk, that doesn't really matter now, but I guess it does matter now, whatever. So it's the culmination of 10 years of everything that you waited for. And Thanos was the villain that the series needed. I think after seeing like your low keys and your, Kurt Russell's portrayal and Guardians of the Galaxy 2 and Killmonger and Black Panther, Thanos was different. It was just different. And yeah, I agree with you on a lot of those moments. I think it has one of the, I don't feel so good, Mr. Stark, as one of those gut wrenching moments in the movie.
Yeah.
And I think it set the tone for, like a lot of people have interesting thoughts about Endgame. Endgame is in my personal top 5. It's not in the top 2 or 3, but
yeah,
I
no, it
feel
would be like 6 or 7 for me.
Yeah,
it has
it's
probably the only single moment. We'll get into that when we talk about
Yeah.
or when you talk about it on your list. I want to
Yeah.
talk about the portals, obviously, moment.
Yeah,
but
I think
yeah.
I think Endgame had a lot of fan service too. There's a lot of fan service, especially just at the end. But I think the Infinity War Endgame is it's like the perfect 1-2 combo of films where the heroes lose it all, and then you have to rebuild. I understand Endgame is a very lengthy watch, right? It's a very lengthy watch. We're talking 3 hours, but that's what would happen. The heroes have to be rebuilt in order to get back, to get back to that point to do that. And they had to go time travel, just a whole bunch of shit. But Infinity War is just I remember being in a theater for Infinity War, and if you didn't read spoilers, the ending left the entire
pin drop.
It was, and I'm not gonna lie, Endgame did the same thing too, in a different way. In a different way.
Oh, yeah.
In a much different way. But the Infinity War ending is probably my top 2 experience inside of a theater. That movie in general, just the whole, like you said, Thor showing up and everybody showing up and everybody getting together and and the Captain America this and they doing that, and it's just everything in that film was, especially the Hulk having his issues, so like there's just a number of things that happen in this film, and it's just Marvel at its peak. It's the best film that has come out of that, and I will say, Infinity War Endgame helped set the template for number 5 on my list of films, which some people don't. Some people feel a certain way about this. Some people don't consider the Spider-Man movies actually a part of these things. I do, but yeah, Infinity War is Doomsday has a lot to live up to.
I think when go back to when I first saw it, it's thankfully, like you guys mentioned, thankfully I went into it without knowing what the ending was going to be. So I think whenever I approach, whether it's certain shows or certain movies, when I weigh at the end of the day how the stakes were set up and whether or not they paid off, I think the beautiful thing with Infinity War is, now granted, of course, everybody comes back essentially in Endgame, of course, except for the major sacrifice from Iron Man. But I think Infinity War, just whether or not people knew what was going to happen after that with Endgame, the idea of losing all those people at the end of Infinity War, it meant the stakes were real at the time, and that is just something that I think it's such not only a good choice for people whether again in various shows or movies. I think it's great storytelling, it's great writing. I think it solidifies again the impact that the characters and the story and the culmination of everything, when you have so many stories that end up just placating us and just despite all the seemingly insurmountable odds and people overcome them, and over time, whether or not they've earned it or not, it gets kind of tired at the end of the day when lives are lost, especially not just side characters but like top tier characters, main characters, and you have to sit with that. I think that really impacts a story more than anything, and I appreciate that so much. So the fact that you guys were able to talk about the way Infinity Game carries so much weight, and like True said, how Doomsday has so much to live up to, I absolutely agree. And the way that Infinity War was able to show you so many different people in such a succinct way, and also again solidify that this show everyone that the stakes were real. It's unforgettable.
All right, so we already know what my number one is Infinity War. So we don't need to discuss that too much, obviously. Civil War would be number 3. We already discussed that. We don't need to discuss that. Just for time purposes, don't discuss that. Number 5 on my list, though, which might be a surprise to some people. And I said people don't consider Spider-Man No Way Home is not a amazing film in terms of how it's done. But just for my personal, it's like Deadpool and Wolverine for you, right? For fan service. This movie.
Oh yeah, it's up there for me too. No Way Home is real hoops. That's for real.
No Way Home. Just to see, Andrew and Toby with Tom as Spider-Man, and then all the villains came back. I came up like Spider-Man was the first to me. Like Blade, I know Blade was Blade, but like I was a kid. You know what I mean? I'm a kid basically. So going to see the first Spider-Man in the movies and sitting there, and it's like Spider-Man was the one that used to come on the cartoon. Spider-Man, like that's what I saw as a kid
the old
growing
one
up.
and the 90s one, Spider-Man. Hell yeah. So I was going to mention this on my part too, but like, I forgot that when I was talking about the great cartoons we used to have, me and Drew, our age group, X-Men, Batman series, but also Spider-Man was Spider-Man the animated series was a huge heavy hitter. And again, we've referenced the video stores before. The old school Spider-Man was the one I used to Spider-Man, that one you were singing. That's the one I used to always be able to get. The old one, you could get like 3-hour tapes of that for like 50 cents in the fucking used bin at the video stores back then. So I know all of that shit too. So but go ahead, man.
But for me, like it's the Tobey Maguire Spider-Man, that was my Spider-Man. So that's the first one that I got to see and to pay attention to, especially on films. I did not watch the Andrew Amazing Spider-Man films like that. Like I actually fell off.
Oh, so you're part of the fucking problem. That's why that happened to Andrew Garfield. No, I'm talking. Go ahead.
Yeah, I can care less anyway. But I watched the one with Jamie Foxx. It was like Electro. I think I watched that one, but I don't know. I just think I wasn't sold on it. No, that was a tough. When that came out, I was going. That was an interesting time in my life. So I didn't care to go to see it. But then when I saw the second one, I was just like, I don't know. Andrew just didn't give me the feel that I guess, and I was being partial to Toby. And so to see them all together in No Way Home, it was just like perfect. And then they brought all the Green Goblin. I mean, the Green Goblin is what I'm saying, that's just that hits home for me because that's the first villain I remember. And I remember playing the Spider-Man video game on PlayStation, and you basically went through the entire movie in that video game. So like I remember that as a kid. So getting to see all of those things in a movie and it still be kind of tied into the larger story for the MCU, the heartbreaking scene with Aunt May and everything and all that stuff. Like there's just a lot that goes on. And then the ending with, Zendaya and at the end with him, and they don't, like it's just a lot of like, it's just, it is the epitome of what I think Spider-Man supposed to represent. But I will say Homecoming. I recently watched Homecoming again for this. And I think Homecoming is a lot better than people gave it credit for at the time, at least, because I actually think it's a really good movie. And Michael Keaton, I always like seeing Michael Keaton in movies, and him as a villain in the movie was pretty cool. So, and the Iron Man tie-in, but No Way Home is just taking, it's fan service love letter to Spider-Man fans, Spider-Man film fans. That's what it is, and because of that, it's number 5 on my list.
So, I mentioned it earlier. It pulls on my heartstrings the same way that the Gambit and Blade situation in Deadpool Wolverine did, that I was talking about on mine. I'd love to see, man, that moment where you said you didn't watch them. Well, you watched the one where Andrew Garfield Spider-Man was not able to save Emma Stone, right? You saw that.
Yes, I did. Yeah.
So getting to see him like save her, that was a fucking whew. That hit real hard. Getting to see him redeem himself and how beautifully acted that scene was by Andrew Garfield. It's fucking tremendous. Seeing the older Spider-Man be like a big brother, like a mentor figure to the other two, and telling the Andrew Garfield Spider-Man, you were always good enough. Like, there's nothing wrong with you. Like, And then also on the villain side, like Jamie Foxx's his Electro is a fucking classic villain in the Spider-Man verse. Since you're a Spider-Man guy, like I know you know, he's right up there. He's part of the Sinister Six. He's the fucking, he's one of the best in my opinion. And his role in that movie was pretty derided and that was like a big deal. Like, holy shit, Jamie Foxx is going to play Electro. Like, that's fucking cool. And it didn't end up playing out so well. And then this one, he's much, much better. And again, another person who was like, you were never nobody. Like, I don't know, man. A lot of really like positive, cool mental health reinforcement stuff in this movie. Like you said, and again, it pulls on my heartstrings the same way that the Deadpool Wolverine does, because getting to see all these ground layers, these people who laid the groundwork for the MCU, like Tobey Maguire, like Doc Ock, like everybody who's involved in those old movies, get to have their moment to shine as part of the MCU, was very fucking cool to me. So that part of it, again, same thing for me. Universal praise, nothing but love for that movie from me. Again, like you said earlier, if we had a top 10, it would definitely have made my top 10, for sure. James, talk to me about Spider-Man No Way Home, and if you want to include any of the other stuff, you can as well, any of the other Spider-Man stuff.
I also grew up watching the animated Spider-Man, not as much as the older version as you were talking about, but definitely for sure. As far as No Way Home goes, I think it's fantastic. I think Jamie Foxx and Willem Dafoe alone are just two actors I've loved for so many years, and pretty much everything they do, I could never get tired of watching them. So the fact that they were able to be those particular characters in terms of Green Goblin and Electro on screen together is fantastic. And I think Tom Holland does a great job as Spider-Man. I love Homecoming because, as we talked about before on a previous episode, I love Michael Keaton so much for what he did for Batman, and I think there's so much that he brings. Like, of course, whether or not he's playing Batman or not in Homecoming, of course he's playing the villain, he's playing a different character, but I think he still is Michael Keaton, and just all that that comes with him is there, and all those layers I can still, whether it's nostalgia. So that's amazing. I ended up seeing No Way Home. I'm sorry, Far From Home, twice in theaters when it first came out. Going in not knowing what to expect in terms of how it was going to compare to Homecoming, I just love the fact that they were able to do certain things in Far From Home, including bring Mysterio onto the screen. I think Jake Gyllenhaal did a great job.
Yeah, Mysterio's another heavy hitter, man. I was pumped to see him, and I think he does a great job. Yeah.
Absolutely, yeah, and Jake Gyllenhaal always goes 110% no matter what he's doing, pretty much. So yeah, all of them on a whole. That's the thing. I know it's an easy way out, but I think they're all pretty much equal in my eyes. But the fact, true, that you're highlighting No Way Home with everything that you mentioned, and the fact that you get to see so many different amazing people on screen doing so many different amazing characters is great.
Number 4 is Endgame.
Yeah.
I mean, can't say enough about Endgame. I know a lot of people are like, oh, it's so long and it's this and it's that. I've watched. This is, even though
I wish it was 30 minutes longer.
So even though Infinity War is my number one, I've probably watched Endgame more than I watched Infinity War. Like I've actually probably watched, and I think it's just because of the fact I guess the Avengers win, even though they don't like win in Endgame, like they win, but something about Endgame to me when I watched it in the theaters, like I remember sitting next to my friends and like everybody's just like, yo, this is crazy, like this is crazy. And then the portal scene when everybody shows up, it's just like, on your left and like all of that stuff happening. And in the last battle, Endgame is just it's one of those films where, to me, it started uneven because I didn't like the whole, we went back in time, we found Thanos, we chopped his head off, and now we got to figure out how to do it, and time travel stuff. I guess it is a little wonky, which is why that probably puts it at number 4 as opposed to maybe it being like a little higher, consider how much I've watched it. But I just think it's the perfect end to that era of the MCU. It's the perfect ender to that part of the story. It was, that particular phase and everything. So I have Endgame at 4. I think once again, it has so many great moments. The Avengers Assembles moment, obviously, and then Cap, Cap being able to pick up Thor's, the hammer from Thor, like all these different things that happen. It's just they're intended to get you out of your seat in the theater. And as someone who went to the theater the first weekend to see Infinity War and Endgame, I've never seen anything like that in a movie theater ever. Like I've never seen anything like that. Like the crowd, the audience just out of this world. Everybody cheering for everything. The every gasp, every like, oh my God, or when Iron Man, takes his last breath. There was people. Hell, my friends that were next to me were shedding tears. Like one of my friends, his name is like Tony, and he's a big Tony Stark guy. He's always a Tony Stark guy, and so he's even shedding tears. Like everybody's shedding tears, and I'm looking in around. I would shed a tear because whatever, but it's just looking around. I'm like, damn, like that's how impactful this film series is to people that it emotionally gutted them to see Tony Stark take his last breath. And I think a lot of people thought that was it for Robert Downey in the MCU, but clearly we did not know what was coming. So Endgame is my number 4.
I wanted to harken back earlier, and then we'll go into the next point I was going to make about these moments. The Infinity War, and this is just a shout out. We're doing Marvel right now, but obviously there's another film series that really helped pave the way for like comic book movies being a serious medium of entertainment. Infinity War, when everybody dies. The only time I've ever heard a theater, it's different than just when it's empty and it's quiet. The only time I've ever been in a full theater that was both simultaneously, it was so silent you could hear fucking hair growing, but also filled with electricity, is the opening scene of The Dark Knight. I'll never forget what that felt like, watching the opening scene of that movie in a packed theater. Again, it was so quiet, it was loud during that opening bank scene, and just everybody on the edge of the seat, like, what the fuck is this? So shout out to that. Obviously in the moment, I was super, super pumped watching the portals scene. And then on reflection, I'm like, how do you quantify? Because to me, there's like an argument in whatever way you like want to quantify it, like the amount of money, the amount of popularity, the amount of cultural impact, the culmination, the emotional attachment. That's arguably like the number one moment in the history of them going to the movies. Maybe of movies in general, cinema, if you really think about it. Like, this is taking movies to a whole new level, taking a medium of entertainment to a whole new level. The amount of money made, no IP comes close, and it's this culmination that everybody is completely so emotionally enraptured by. It's like a fucking soccer goal, like, and it's just so grandiose, and the music is perfect. And where do you rank that? Like, of all the movies you've ever seen, all the times you've ever been to the movie theater, to me, the only thing that's comparable is the first time we see the Brachiosaurus in Jurassic Park. But other than that, for me, I think there's an argument to be made. That's like the number one moment in movies ever. Drew, what do you think, man?
I'll say this. It's a reason why Endgame is the biggest movie of all time. I don't care what nobody say about that Avatar shit. Listen, Avatars, whatever. I don't really care. With the fire and ash or water and ash, whatever is out right now. I've never been a big fan of the Avatar movies. I know they have their place and they make a lot of money, but like, I don't know people who say like this. You know what I'm saying? Like, nobody's ever came to me and
out
said,
there making a pod talking about the Avatar movies like this.
Absolutely
no,
not. Yeah. Like, there's nobody probably doing that. So there's a reason why Endgame is the biggest movie of all time. There's a reason why Infinity War is like right there in the top 3 or top 4 movies of all time, because these movies represent moments. It is moments. Like, this is what I think is, if you continuously give people something to come to the theater for or something to invest in, this is what you get out of that. There are people who've never read a comic book in their life who, when they did the Avengers Assemble scene, they were jumping out of their seat in the theater,
ripping seats out of the floor, brother.
Like when, and the same thing in Infinity War when it's a whole thing going on, and you know, Iron Man is going through with Thanos, look like it's about to be over for Iron Man, and then Spider-Man, you know, doing the missile stuff. Like, these are the moments. You have a movie, you have a series that has that. Now, I can say there's not a lot of other films in the MCU that have those particular moments, which is why those moments
not a lot of movies, period, that have those kind of moments. That's kind of what I'm saying.
But it's just like, even when you talk about Civil War has one of those moments. Civil War has one of those moments to me with Cap and Iron Man and Bucky. I think that's a moment to where, if you're in a theater and you're watching the go, especially when they kind of whooping Iron Man's ass, like, that's a moment where, especially the, you know, he's my friend, so was I. Like, I remember being in the theater and people going, oh shit. Like, people were like, oh man, like, that's a bar right there. Like, people was doing that in the theater. So these are the moments, and that's what Marvel represents. And I know a lot of people like hated on Marvel and hated the whole concept of the MCU being so popular and so dominant. But for me, it provided me with some of the greatest entertainment that I've ever witnessed in a theater, if not the greatest entertainment that I've witnessed in a theater. So, an Endgame to me is kind of like Infinity War, Endgame. Like, you can't have one without the other. So, you know, those two back to back, out of this world. So that ranks up there for me. I think the quiet theater after after Infinity War is probably number 2, and then the amount of like audible cries at the end of Endgame is number 1. I'd never seen people leave a theater that sad over anything. I'd never seen that in my life. So that ranks up there.
Thor and Mjolnir is right up there too. You know, top 3 MCU moment. The you know, Thor's I knew it when he got it. It's so fucking good. James, talk to me about Endgame, and what are your feelings? You're a big movie guy, man. That's why we have you on here for these. You're our movie expert. What do you think? What do you think of my quandary about the portals moment overall as a cinematic moment?
In terms of having that portal moment, I think that's something that no other franchise has been able to do in terms of connective tissue and bridging the gap in terms of all the characters, all their stories, all their arcs, all the emotions, tying that all up together, and then having the catharsis to let everybody shed those tears like True was talking about. It's a beautiful thing.
All right, so number 3 is obviously Civil War for me. Number 3 is Civil War. We already talked about Civil War. Number 1 is Infinity War. We already know that for me. Number 2 is The Winter Soldier. And I'll tell you what it is. Personally, for me, I went in with low expectations because I did not like the first Avenger that much. I didn't really like it that much. Like, I thought it was okay, but like a lot of propaganda in that shit. Honestly, like a lot of propaganda in the first Avenger. A lot of stuff that I just didn't care about the first Avenger. It didn't connect with me like that. So when I got into Winter Soldier, I remember a friend of mine, you know, RIP to him. He was like, dude, you gotta go and see this movie. And I was like, why? I was like, it's Captain America. Like, at the time, I was like, you know, the Hulk and Iron Man was cool because I liked the first Iron Man. And although I thought Iron Man 2 was a little and so I went into this, and you know, this was like the official introduction of Sam, right? Like, I feel like the real introduction of Sam. You know, there was, I think Natasha was in this one as well, and they kind of built that story, and I just think the introduction of the Winter Soldier and Bucky becoming the Winter Soldier and everything around that story, the Winter Soldier feels less like a superhero movie and more of like a thriller action movie, and that's what I liked about it, was that I didn't feel like I was watching a superhero movie because it didn't really feel like a superhero movie. Just the whole, and then I mean the elevator scene. Come on, man, the elevator scene's classic. Can't front on that. I think the ending and how I think the Winter Soldier laid the groundwork for what Civil War, for what I mean, Age of Ultron, obviously, and the other ones, I think it just built upon that. But to me, because I feel like I'm not watching a superhero movie, that's what makes it so special to me. And also, like I said, it's a little bit of a bias on my part because, like I said, it's one of the last movies I watched with a friend who was, very adamant that I go see it, and then he passed away like probably like less than a month after that. So we all went, like 5 or 6 of us, to the theater to see that movie, and it's one of the, like, my last memory. So that movie's always held a special place. It used to be number one on my list, even over Infinity War for a while, but I just think it doesn't feel like a typical movie, and it does everything it needs to do without the other assortment of characters that are in the rest of my top five, basically. You know what I mean? Like, there's no Avengers, there's no prevalent presence of Avengers in this one. Like, where Infinity Wars are just everybody, in games, everybody. Spider-Man No Way Home is like every Spider-Man ever. Civil War is everybody. This one felt more grounded. It felt more focused on Cap. It felt focused on some of his backstory, Bucky's backstory, and what's going on with that. I think some of the action sequences are extremely fun, extremely well done, and I think the writing and even the villains in this were perfect to me. So that's why it's in my top two. It's my favorite Captain America movie. Even though I debate back and forth between that one and Civil War some days. It just really depends for me, like what day I'm watching it. Because I watched Winter Soldier not that long ago, and I think I watched it after I watched Civil War. Right now, it's above Civil War, but maybe if I did it in the opposite order, Civil War be 2 and like Winter Soldier be 3. But yeah, man, I just loved Winter Soldier. I think it was, like I said, a superhero movie that did not feel like a superhero movie. It felt like I was just watching a standard, top tier action thriller movie, which those are some of my favorite movies in general. So that's why it's ranked so high for me.
I love it as well. I mentioned before, I also go back and forth between Winter Soldier and Civil War. I think at the end of the day, just, now that I think about it in terms of like, again, the layers we talked about with Civil War in terms of having all those characters, especially the fact that we've got Spider-Man and Black Panther, I think I'd have to, if I really, a gun to my head, had to decide, I'd put Civil War just above Winter Soldier. But Winter Soldier is just so good, and it's a direction that I don't think anyone was expecting in terms of tone and writing and storytelling in terms of what was going to go uh, back and forth in terms of Cap and Bucky, and the layers involved again with like I mentioned before, the Cold War tone of the espionage. You layer all those things on top of each other, and then you have the elevator scene. You get to see these characters in a way that, again, people weren't expecting, and whether or not we got to see them again, it's just a beautiful gem. So to be able to have that is great.
James,
Oh,
tell us about anything that's in your top five that hasn't already been mentioned.
right. Thank you for this opportunity. I align in so many ways in terms of all the movies that have been mentioned, in terms of your guys' rankings. I would say personally, uh, in terms of something that hasn't been spoken about as much, if at all, uh, for me, which is number one, and then following that, whether it's number two, three, four, or five, I'm still wrestling with, but for sure, number one for me is and always has been since it came out, Black Panther. I can't
Okay.
get over how amazing that movie is, how great everyone involved in it is. The fact that you get Chadwick Boseman and Michael B. Jordan in the same movie um, is something on a tier unto itself.
With Coogler
Uh,
behind the camera.
exactly. I was
Crazy.
just gonna say, with Cougar behind the camera, and then again in front of the camera, you've got Forrest Whitaker, you got Angela Bassett,
Yeah.
you've got Lupita Nyong'o, and so many other people that literally bring they bring the story layer, they bring the character development layer, action, set piece, social commentary, all these layers involved. And then, like we've mentioned before, in terms of the importance of the music, I think not only the orchestral actual motion picture soundtrack score, but then also what Kendrick Lamar was able to do in terms of bringing people together to make an album based around Black Panther. I can't tell you how many gaming sessions I have had with my friends in terms of playing, particularly fighting games. Shout out to Marvel vs. Capcom, especially Marvel vs. Capcom 3, that I love to play with our mutual dear friend Johnny and another one of my friends, Ron. It's one of those things where we could throw Kendrick Lamar's Black Panther on at any given point and rock out and fight for a day or night to that. So, again, but to bring it all home, at the end of the day, number one for me, Black Panther, for all those reasons. And then following that, again, whether it's number two, three, four, or five, I genuinely love Black Panther Wakanda Forever. I think what they were able to do in terms of coming off of the most unfortunate, tragic passing of Chadwick Boseman to continue that story again with Ryan Coogler and the bringing, all the characters that they could back, but especially bringing the ladies to the forefront and just showing how badass they could be, how they could rise to the occasion, lead the way, assume the mantle. Now, don't get me wrong, no one is eclipsing Chadwick Boseman, no one is overtaking or replacing. I think just the carrying of the torch and the succession, the way it was able to be pulled off, I think it's a beautiful thing. We're talking about the tears that have been shed, the catharsis that happens, especially when we go to see some of these movies in the theaters. When me and my wife and our dear friends went to go see Wakanda Forever, all of us throughout multiple points of Wakanda Forever were bawling our eyes out. And I just think, again, the music as well lent so much to that, but the story and the way they were able to do what they were able to do after again, not only Black Panther, but the unfortunate passing of Chadwick Boseman is truly is something that I give them all the credit in the world for being able to do.
It took me a long fucking time, man, to even be able to think about like watching that. That was one of the, and I do say it's going to be fascinating if they do move forward, because it's fascinating when some parts of a film and the art behind it matches with what the actual real life situation that's going on. I think that's part of what made Wakanda Forever good is, everybody in the film is dealing with the death of the character. That's because everybody who's working on the film is dealing with the death of the man who played them, and how much that overlaps. And it'll be interesting to see whatever young man gets casted to play his son in carrying the mantle forward. That person will be stepping into the pressure of a hallowed, sacred portrayal of this character, and will be somewhat simulating some of the pressure that character filling in for his sacred and admired father would carry as well. So yeah, it's crazy. True, talk to us about Black Panther, man.
Black Panther would be probably like in my top 10. I think it's a phenomenal movie. I will say it's hard for me to watch it though now. Just like it's hard for me to watch Get On Up. Just like it's hard for me to watch a couple of movies, man. Like the whole Chadwick thing kind of, it's hard for me to watch it. So because it's funny, I didn't watch this. When I watched back all the Marvel movies when I was doing the rankings, I did not watch Black Panther back. And it's just a hard movie for me to watch. So I think it's a great movie. I think it was, man, I just, it's sad though, because I like how strong would the MCU have been throughout, COVID and all those, that recovery time if we could have got a Wakanda Forever with Chadwick Boseman, if he was still here. It's one of those what ifs it's kind of a sore spot for me as a fan of the franchise. So I do appreciate Black Panther 1. Michael B. Jordan was great as Killmonger. Overall, as just a spectacle, I mean, I remember being in the theaters and seeing how everybody showed out and turned up for that. That is a cultural moment. That is a moment. I wasn't wearing Coming to America, King Joffrey Joffrey attire in the theater, but
had a train on that fucking thing. Yep.
I saw a ton of people doing it. I saw people coming in with their best Black Panther. Even one of my acquaintances, video game buddies, at the time. He went to the movies with us to go see Black Panther. It was like 10 of us, and he walked in there and he had on Black Panther stuff, and it was just Black Panther just represented a big change for a lot of people, I think, in terms of especially for for our community, man. Like it gave the I wish that Blade would have got that too at the time, right? We just didn't know, like Blade was very loved, but just Black Panther, it was just a symbol of power. It's a symbol of excellence. It was a symbol of many things, and it's a great film. It's a great movie. It would probably definitely be in my top 10 for Marvel.
I think the difference is, Blade kind of came out of nowhere and surprised everybody with how culturally impactful it was. Black Panther, we all fucking knew what time it was, and it was going to get its moment to shine. So let's go ahead and clock in. Phase 1, Iron Man, Incredible Hulk, Iron Man 2, Thor, Captain America, First Avenger. Highlights for you. The one thing I do, and concludes with the Avengers. One thing I do have to say is I saw it ranked pretty high on your list. I was not, and I'm a little softer on it now. I wasn't that impressed with Avengers. It was cool to see everybody together. That was, obviously a difference maker and something that we hadn't really witnessed in the past. But Joss Whedon is just not my cup of tea, man. It's just so much. It felt like reaching for one-liners, and the quality of the script felt like a real callback to the shitty superhero movies we used to get in the 90s. Well, it was very eye-rolling for me. But otherwise, obviously the first Iron Man, damn fine film. That kicked us off the right way. Still highly quotable to this day. It was fun hearing you comment on Thor earlier. Both the opening Thor movies were, especially this one though, were like very small scale, probably the smallest scale of any Marvel movies that there have been. So it was an interesting test of faith of what people thought of the MCU and thought of Marvel. Still liked it. Thoughts on or highlights or thoughts on Phase 1?
Honestly, I don't really care too much for Phase 1 like that personally. So like when I did the article, I was kind of just going off of usually I try to be objective, and I was just like Iron Man would maybe be number 1 for me. If I'm being like fully biased, but then also not, because like I have a love and hate relationship with the first Iron Man because they replaced my guy after the first one. They replaced my guy. Yeah. So I kind of
next time, man.
Yeah, like I just have a thing for that movie where I'm like, man, they replaced my guy, man. Like that's my guy. So, but Iron Man and I get your issue with the first Avengers. I think, like I said, I think there's a different level of quality when the Russos got the Avengers versus what we saw with Josh Whedon. And I'm not a big fan of Josh Whedon, but I liked it. I liked the Avengers movie, and I think it's mostly because of Loki. I think Loki is such a jackass in the movie that it just kind of works for me. So, but I think the battle and the big battle at the end was entertaining and fun.
Yeah, it is.
But other than that, like I said, Phase 1 doesn't have a lot that sticks out to me, man. Like honestly, like it's just Iron Man 1 and literally the Avengers is the only thing that really sticks out for me.
What about you, James? Phase 1 highlights or thoughts?
I'm right there with y'all. I agree. Definitely Iron Man. For me, I can unequivocally say Iron Man for sure is the top for me out of Phase 1. Again, like you guys have mentioned with some of the other movies, having that theater experience, going into that first movie, without even having any idea that there were going to be so many movies to come and so many connections to be made, but just having that experience of being that young at that time, going into a movie, not knowing what was going to happen and just letting it ride, and hearing the behind the scenes info in terms of how so much of the script was not necessarily improvised on the spot, but like improvised in terms of like worked out, like almost like whether it was like the day of or the day before or the day before that, and how Jeff Bridges who did a great job playing the villain in that movie. But even he himself, in terms of acting, despite being older and having been in the industry for so many years, he was thrown off by how Robert Downey Jr. And Jon Favreau were approaching the writing of it. So the fact that that was going on and still that they were able to pull it off and then set the tone and set the wheels in motion for so many movies to come is incredible.
Phase 2, Iron Man 3, Thor: The Dark World, Captain America: Winter Soldier, Guardians of the Galaxy, Avengers: Age of Ultron, Ant-Man, Captain America: Civil War starts off the phase 3. So Ant-Man ends off phase 2. Two movies I think in this one that are a little underrated, and I think me and True kind of agree on this because we've kind of discussed it in the past. I'm not saying Thor: Dark World is like good, but I did not understand the level of shat upon that it was. I just don't. I don't know why so many people knee jerk automatically that it's just the worst movie ever. I thought it was fine. It was fine. I don't really particularly find it any lower quality than most of what goes on in phase 1. And I think me and True have a underrated love for Avengers: Age of Ultron. It's on TV a lot. It's on TNT a lot. I always watch it, especially for the end. That ending sequence where they're all in the church fighting the robots is like a fucking Michelangelo, like a modern day Rembrandt come to life. Some of the angles that they shoot of it and some of the music and everybody using their abilities, linking together as a team. Also, I'm a huge James Spader fan. Like, love that he's so fucking awesome in that movie that there's rumors that he might be back sooner than later. And I love, Vision is very fucking cool in this universe, and I was a big Vision fan because I played the Avengers arcade game a lot as a kid, and Vision was fucking badass in that. So I like those two movies a lot more than I think people give them credit for, or they kind of get shit on. I'm not saying that they don't rank in the list of the movies that the franchises they're in where they should be. I just don't know if they're as bad as people make them out to be sometimes. True, talk to me about phase 2.
Winter Soldier, obviously. I watch Age of Ultron quite a bit, and I like it. I liked it when I first saw it. I remember going to the movie with friends, and I was like, yeah, it wasn't better than Guardians of the Galaxy 1 or Winter Soldier to me, but at that time, and I also think this is what happens with films, right? Like, people start to get like, oh, well, that didn't do this or that didn't. Like, I enjoyed it. I went to the theater, I sat down, I watched it, I enjoyed myself. So at the end of the day, that's all I really care about when it comes to that part. Is like, I enjoyed it. I thought it's extremely important to the story, very important to the story and advancing the story. So I really enjoyed that. And I think, Age of Ultron is it has its flaws, obviously, but it's an entertaining watch. And I think the whole, especially when they're in the, base and Cap is about to lift, the hammer from Thor, and it's like you see it move, and then Cap pretty much was like, nah, like you can see Cap's mind, like, I'm not gonna pick this up. I'm not gonna do it to him. I'm not gonna do it to him like that. So I like that. And Guardians of the Galaxy 1, classic. Like I said, we know how I feel about Winter Soldier. Ant-Man, I have half and half feelings on Ant-Man. I think it's cool, but it's not like my favorite. I think phase 2 is like really solid, and it's the foundational piece of phase 3, taking it to astronomical levels. Like phase 3
phase 3 is crazy because Black Panther's in that too.
That's like the greatest run of any franchise to me. Like, there's no franchise in history that can say they had that, like, this would, we used to be wrestling guys, right? So banger after banger after banger. It's just straight bangers. So yeah.
So phase 3, we kind of already discussed it to death, so we can probably keep rolling. Phase 4, some divisive stuff. Black Widow, Shang-Chi, Eternals, Spider-Man: No Way Home, Doctor Strange: Multiverse of Madness, Thor: Love and Thunder, Black Panther: Wakanda Forever. I feel like this is like just a list of movies that I think I liked more than everybody else.
I like some of them. I like Doctor Strange 2 a lot more than I think most people do. I saw that movie like 3 times. Like, me and my daughter watched that movie like 3 times. So I like that movie a lot.
Eternals, I think it's because Eternals has a lot of my favorite. I'm a big fan of the Black Knight. Obviously there was a Blade cameo. I liked a lot of stuff about Eternals. Shang-Chi was fucking cool, good stuff. Kind of unfortunate we haven't seen anybody from that part of the universe back. Black Widow I thought was really effective. Pretty cool stuff. We talked about No Way Home. Thor: Love and Thunder. I get why it gets shit on, but I think it's another one just for me. I don't know if it's quite as bad as I mean, I get it. I thought the ending was very, very fucking cool. I'm just a sucker. I guess I'm just a sucker for surrogate relationships and stuff with kids. I don't know. The ending with Love and Thunder, hitting at the end, and Gore making him promise to take care of her and all that stuff. I don't know. I dug that. And then Wakanda Forever, a little bit divisive. James loved it. I loved it. I think you did too. Talk to me about some of the other stuff in Phase 4 there, True.
I'm not a big Wakanda Forever person, honestly. Like, I'm not that big on that. I thought it was decent. But like I said, Doctor Strange 2, I really enjoyed. I saw Eternals in the theater and I was not as big on that as everybody else. I get why some people enjoyed it. I thought it looked decent at times and it was cool, but honestly, like it's probably my least favorite phase. Or it's right there with my least favorite phase. So it had some good moments to it, but like I said, Doctor Strange 2 is probably the most underrated film of that to me, and it's just because of the fact I like the style. My guy Sam, I've watched a ton of his films, and he also obviously did the original Spider-Man with Tobey Maguire stuff. So I'm just a big fan of his work, and that's just why. And I'm pretty sure it's my Evil Dead guy as well, if I'm not mistaken. So
yes, sir.
So I just like the way, and I like the way that they made Wanda in this film, even though she's like evil or whatever. I love that. I love seeing you get the full Scarlet Witch. So I thought that was good. Like I said, not a whole lot from this. Love and Thunder, I don't have much to say about. I thought Christian Bale deserved a little bit better as the villain because I thought he did a really good job as the villain, but I just think the writing is my issue with Phase 4. Like some of the writing was just very substandard and very piss poor. So, but they had some moments. I'll give it that. They had moments, but not many.
And it's right. What a tough act to follow coming up to Phase 3. Like, it's not the time to put out your weakest stuff. James, talk to me about Phase 4, man. Interesting stuff.
Yeah, I was literally just gonna say, following off of what True was saying, the unfortunate part with the writing in multiple films in this phase, I completely agree. The doubly unfortunate thing with Thor: Love and Thunder is, I don't know about y'all, but uh, you know, coming that's the thing, coming off of Thor Ragnarok, which at least when it came out and for multiple years following, I thought, pretty much, I don't know about y'all, but in the circles I was running in, everybody loved Thor Ragnarok.
Yeah, it's
Nobody
in my top
had anything. Yeah, exactly. But let me get to my point as quick as I can here. The fact that everybody seemingly loved it at the beginning and for multiple years afterward, but then all of a sudden with Love and Thunder, again, like you guys, I agree. Like the fact that people are trashing on it as hard as they are is, I don't think it's personally called for to the degree that it is, like you mentioned with a couple other movies in terms of like Thor Dark World, going back to another Thor movie that doesn't get much love at all. Not that I think it deserves necessarily high praise or love, but I thought it was fine. It's one of those things where Love and Thunder, the unfortunate thing is it was just bad enough that people then started to be like, oh well, Taika Waititi and Thor Ragnarok, it was just so lame what he did with the characters and how unserious he made them and stuff like that. It's like I didn't hear anyone complaining about
No,
Ragnarok
yeah,
when it came out
yeah.
for multiple years afterward. It wasn't until Love and Thunder that I started to hear all that. So the fact that that happened is really unfortunate. But otherwise, back to Phase 4, like you guys. I also agree with you in terms of what had been said before in terms of Shang-Chi. I thought it was a great movie, and I would love to see more of that. It's unfortunate we haven't seen more of Shang-Chi and his entourage. But at the end of the day, yeah, there's nothing that Phase 4 could do to follow up Phase 3 and, really hit the high marks as good as not only we're talking about the struggles of Phase 2, but like if Phase 1, Phase 3, it's hard to follow those good things. But they were we got through it, and we're gonna keep on chugging. So we'll see what happens with the phases to come.
Phase 5. Ant-Man and the Wasp: Quantumania. True has already made his feelings on that clear. Guardians of the Galaxy Volume 3. We discussed a little bit before. The Marvels. Interesting. I don't know. It's interesting. Deadpool and Wolverine, Captain America: Brave New World, and Thunderbolts star the new Avengers. I guess we'll go with the Marvels, man. Felt to me like the marketing on that, they had given up on it before it even came out. I like everybody that's in it. I'll preface that with saying it like that. I like Captain Marvel. I love Kamala Khan. I think that young lady is immensely charismatic. I enjoy watching anything with her in it in the MCU. Thought this movie kind of sucked, man. It just wasn't very good. And it felt like Marvel maybe knew it beforehand and did not work very hard to promote it. The promotion campaign really only kind of picked up and started to become compelling like a week out. They did it a disservice, and that's me saying that with thinking the movie's not really that good. We discussed a lot of the other stuff we discussed a lot of the stuff that's in this list already. Thunderbolts, I thought, nailed what it was trying to do. Guardians of the Galaxy 3 we talked about. Captain America: Brave New World we talked about. So yeah, second to last, and then we'll be brought up to modern times. Thought on the Phase 5 here. True.
I think Phase 5 is a quintessential look at half and half, right?
Yeah.
It's like the first half awful, except for Guardians of the Galaxy 3. But Ant-Man and the Wasp: Quantumania, I thought was awful. The Marvels, I agree. I think it's a very poorly put together movie. Though the whole Miss Marvel, Kamala Khan, like I think she's pretty good in her role. I've have my thoughts about Brie Larson as Captain Marvel. Yeah, not a big fan of that movie. But I think Deadpool and Wolverine kind of turned it around. Captain America: Brave New World was decent, and Thunderbolts really good. So trending in the right direction. I feel like everything for this is trending in the right direction. Because Phase 4 was a little wonky. The TV shows kind of, like the Moon Knights and the She-Hulks and a couple of other ones, and I know Daredevil new season came out and there's other ones coming. So there's just a lot of stuff involved with Marvel that Phase 4 and Phase 5 both felt a little clunky. And Phase 5, I think, is starting to get it together. Ironheart, which is I thought was a pretty good show. I didn't get a chance to watch everything that happened in Ironheart, but what I did see, I thought it was pretty good. So there's a lot going on with Phase 5 that trended in the right direction. So, and I think Phase 6 could hit the highs that Phase 3 did. It's possible to replicate that type of run, but it very well could, especially with Black Panther 3 in the works. And Black Panther 3 is supposed to have Denzel Washington in it as a villain. So we'll see.
No, True's right. It's both the last two phases and parts of this most recent phase kind of buckling under the weight of living up to the legacy of what came before and trying to, like he said, recapture that feeling. I feel like Deadpool Wolverine did it a couple times. I feel like Thunderbolts nailed what it was trying to be. I feel like Fantastic Four did a really, really good job. I thought Fantastic Four introduced, because Reed Richards in a lot of the comics, and possibly going forward is kind of the new Tony Stark, in that he's like kind of the leader of the Avengers and the primary male lead. And I thought Pedro Pascal was very believable in that role in the Fantastic Four, and they did a great job with that movie and the setup for the future. Like I said, by the time you hear this, the X-Men are on the way. And if you know anything, I know True does, James probably too. If you know anything about the origins of the X-Men and what Stan Lee was doing when he did it, it's interesting that it's poignant that they're about to become the backbone of entertainment once again for Marvel in this day and age. And we're all looking forward to that, and I hope that they crush it, and I hope that they nail it, and I hope everybody is buzzing about this new trailer by the time you listen to us. Thank you for riding with us. We hope we did an adequate job of taking you all through the MCU, bringing back some good memories, and we're all about recapturing the feeling. We are so back.